So here we are, 10,000 years later, but still right on time. So the first official episode of Let's Get to the Heart of It. Life has been something else, but then again, it always will be. Divorced, single mom of 4, trying to navigate a full-time job, obligations to my father, working on being authentically aligned with my path and purpose within myself and my spirituality, discovering, or should I really say remembering, what it means to be a melanated woman. But we'll unravel all of these things over time. The point is that we're finally here together on this journey of healing and of self to better understand our life lessons, heal traumas, and practice and celebrate self-love. My hope is that talking about these topics and sharing my personal stories will help you on your journey as I continue to heal and work on mine. Now, the format, topics, messages may vary just based on what I'm led to do, but for today, I decided to draw a card from the Divine Directions deck by Jade Sky for direction on today's topic, which, as you know from the title of today's episode, is trust. But before we get into this topic, let's remember a few rules. If you haven't done it already, get ready to pause here so that you can go and get a glass of wine or some medicinal plant medicine, whatever you prefer. Make sure that you're comfortable. You may even want to get a journal and pen so you can write down anything that comes up for you. Just light a candle or some incense. Get whatever you need to be comfortable so that we can dive in. So now that you're ready, let's get to the heart of it. So again, the topic of our discussion today is trust. So let's take a look at the word. So one of the definitions of trust by Merriam-Webster Dictionary is a firm belief in the character, strength, or truth of someone or something. Trust is something that we're born with. As newborns, we trust our parents immediately. As a matter of fact, in researching, I came across the theory that trust starts to develop from mid-pregnancy to 12 months after birth, which usually peaks about 4 to 5 months. It's one of the basic needs that are formed in the first chakra, which is called your root chakra or Muladhara. We'll be going more in depth into different chakras and their significances in future episodes, but just briefly for those of you that don't know, there are 7 major chakras. The first chakra is the root chakra or Muladhara, which I just mentioned, and it's located at the base of your spine. This chakra is associated with the color red, and its focus is on survival and self-preservation. The second chakra is the sacral chakra, or Svadhisthana, and it's located in your abdomen, genitals, lower back, and hips. The focus of this chakra is sexuality, emotions, creativity, and self-gratification, and it's also associated with the color orange. The third chakra is the solar plexus or Manipura chakra. This is located in your upper abdomen in the stomach area. Its focus is on power and will and your definition of self, and it's associated with the color yellow. The fourth chakra is called the heart chakra or Anahata. And as its name states, it's located in the center of your chest in the heart area. This chakra is about love, relationships, and self-acceptance, and it's associated with the color green. The throat chakra is your fifth chakra, or as it's also known, Vishuddha. I can never say it right. But as you guessed it, it's located in your throat. It controls communication, self-expression, and truth, and is associated with the colors light blue and turquoise. And it honestly just dawned on me why I've been so attracted to the color turquoise in the past few years, and I want to take this as confirmation for me that this chakra is a major component of my purpose and why I'm even here recording today. Okay, so moving right along, the sixth chakra is the third eye or Ajna chakra, and it's located in your forehead between the eyes or in your brow. This chakra controls your intuition, imagination, and self-reflection, and the colors that it's associated with are dark blue and purple. And finally, we have the crown chakra, or Sahasrara chakra, which is located at the very top of the head or cerebral cortex. This controls awareness, self-knowledge, and spiritual connection, and it's associated with the colors violet or white. Now, there's so much information available to go in depth about these and other chakras, so I really encourage you to learn more. And again, we'll talk about each one more in future episodes. But let's get back to trust and its association with the root chakra. So I'm going to read an excerpt from, I believe this is Anandia Judith's Eastern Body, Western Mind. It's a little lengthy, but I feel like this is vital information to help you understand where certain behaviors stem from. So, in this part that I want to go over with you, it says, allow yourself for a moment to enter the experience of the newborn infant. You have just left the warm and dark womb where everything is provided for you and emerge now into dazzling light and cold. You open your eyes and see blurred images, hear sounds louder than you've ever heard before. You are scared and hungry. Some basic instinct draws your mouth to a breast and you suck your first juices of life, warm milk flowing into your empty body or your empty belly. You relax, temporarily feeling safe. You have begun your lifelong journey with the most difficult task of all, getting born. For the first several months of your life, you can't do anything for yourself. You understand nothing and have almost no control over your body or surroundings. You can't speak the language, so you can either communicate or understand anything said around you, yet your life depends on getting your needs met. Though you gradually master simple tasks, this is your basic state during your first year of life. The meeting of your needs is beyond your control, yet you need everything. There's a frightening feeling that was not present in the womb. Things are not provided automatically as they were in the womb. There are periods of hunger, cold, discomfort, and pain. Whether these things are miraculously met creates your psychological foundation for relating to the world, trust or mistrust. Because you do not understand the mechanism of getting your needs met. Crying is automatic and unintentional at this stage. The issue of trust versus mistrust becomes a basic experience of your very self. This is your first vague sense of whether or not you are glad to be here. Trust or mistrust is the basic element of your first chakra program, which is a foundation of all the other programs that follow. Trust enables your body to unfold from its cramped position, allows security and calm, and encourages connection, bonding, and exploration. With trust, the survival instinct is satisfied and there is a sense of emotional well-being. If you are confident that the world is a friendly place, you have the sense that you will live. Without trust, your survival feels constantly threatened, and because there is nothing you can do to meet the threat, the anxiety is unbearable. The substance of survival, feeding, holding, warmth, and physical comfort must come from outside you. This is provided by your roots, meaning your parents, family, and caretakers. The degree to which parents succeed at this task depends a great deal on the kind of support they received as an infant and children, and what kind of support system they have for themselves while you are young. Are grandparents helpful and supportive? Is there adequate money for the family to take care of needs? Does the mother have to work? Does she eat well while pregnant and nursing? All of these things affect your first chakra development. In the first few months of life, your nervous system responds instinctually. Signals come from within your body, hunger, cold, discomfort, and are communicated spontaneously through movement or crying. Your consciousness is not developed enough to block any flow of energy. You are utterly open as you have not yet learned to filter out anything unwanted. Your infant body is literally flooded with aliveness or charge, and it is from this state that you form your first chakra and the very beginnings of self. So, as you look at your own life and you think about what you may have experienced at that time of development, what do you think about? Like, what stories have you heard? How do you feel? For me, in this moment, I wonder, what was my mother going through in life when she was pregnant with me and in that first year? And how much I've struggled all of my life between my instinctual need to trust versus the mistrust that I have developed based on my life experiences. So as we heard from the text that I read, from before we're even born, we're forced to trust. Trust to move our limbs, trust that food and nourishment will come, trust that those that care for us will provide our basic needs. But when the environment is one where trust is not fostered, it can lead you to not only mistrust others, but it can also lead you to mistrust yourself. This brings me back to the rest of the message on the card that I pulled. And I know it may seem like I'm all over the place, but trust me, it's all connected. Here we go again with trust. Okay, so trust. The card says, trust in your intuition and what you are feeling, sensing, seeing, or experiencing. And again, this is basically what you do as an infant when you're first born or even within the womb. So I'll also just go ahead and throw a little astrology in here now. So I'm a Pisces, which is supposed to be a highly intuitive sign. As a matter of fact, for those that are into astrological birth charts, I'm a Pisces sun and moon and a Cancer rising. So I know a lot of emotion. So I've always just known things or had a feeling about certain things. And I would honestly have to say that 99% of the time, my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams, that they were all right. It's when I don't trust or listen to my intuition where I wind up delaying my purpose, because it's like I'm taking a detour on this journey of me. And also, growing up, I don't really remember feeling nurtured by my mom. Like, my dad was the nurturer, but he spent more time chasing money than being with his family. So I can only really deduce that what I think things were like for my mom during her pregnancy with me, and it's definitely a conversation that I'll see if she's willing to have, but based on what I can piece together, she was not in the best place. I honestly don't think my parents really loved each other. I think they tolerated each other the best that they could, and as long as they could, not realizing that they were really trying to escape from their own unresolved traumas within themselves and their own families. Don't get me wrong, my parents love me, and I love them. But every time I tried to trust, something happened to break that trust, and I felt like we were living under a microscope, because in everything we did, I was always told, what will people think? So if I didn't feel safe and I had a battle with trust while in utero, and I grew up not being allowed to express myself, my thoughts, and my opinions, how could I possibly trust myself, even if all the evidence showed that I should? I was always told that I was too sensitive growing up and as an adult, but people didn't realize just how sensitive I really was. And I didn't realize or understand just how sensitive I was either. So trust in your intuition and what you are feeling, sensing, seeing, or experiencing. I'm a person that feels, senses, sees, and experiences things deeply. Sometimes those things are my own, and sometimes those things are for others. But I've learned that the fear instilled in me as a child about what people thought and never trusting that it was safe enough to express myself caused me to ignore my intuition more times than I can count over the years. So when I was 13, someone who I looked at as a best friend at the time introduced me to a guy that I would go on to date for 6 years. I know, 13 is young. Throughout that time, I could always tell when he was with another girl. I could always sense when things were going to get violent. I could always tell when something was going to happen. Whether it was a feeling, a song, a dream, I just knew, but I always kept quiet because in that moment, I would question my intuition. So when things started getting violent, I knew that it would mean repeating my parents' marriage, but I stayed for several reasons. One, he would change, right? And once he did, my parents would accept him because our upbringings were so similar. Two, fear. Fear that had I tried to leave, I honestly wouldn't survive. And three, I didn't think anyone else would understand what society would look at as deviant behavior within me. So even though every sensation in my body told me that I should go, and it took the universe removing him from my life and sending him to jail and me meeting someone else to finally allow me to let go, even though it may have been temporary at the time. So meeting my now ex-husband helped me with the process of releasing that ex. When I met him, everything in me said that his purpose was only to be a summer fling. Just someone to help me move past the trauma of my previous relationship. But I didn't listen, and I wound up living out a 20-year lesson instead. One thing I will warn you about is that if you don't heed your intuition, the universe may start with showing you little subtle signs, and if you continue to ignore them, those tower moments will arrive to shake things up. So, summer fling expectations turned into 20 years of the same lessons over and over and over again. So let's just run down a few of the more significant consequences of not trusting my intuition in this relationship. In the beginning, there really was, or I should say were, a lot of signs like seeing double purchases of things, 2 bracelets, 2 pieces of lingerie, saying that he would be going out to hang out with one person and that person, one of his friends, would unexpectedly show up after he said that was who he was hanging out with. The story would change. I saw and knew, but I ignored so many things because at that time, why should it bother me when all I was doing was just having fun? That first year, he initiated the dates. He was attentive, he was nice, he was different from what I had previously experienced. Then slowly, it started turning into where we didn't go anywhere unless it was a double date or I initiated it. And when I went from feeling the need to correct everyone and clarify that I was not his girl to what I thought was falling in love and getting pregnant, you would have thought that everything changed. Initially, when I found out I was pregnant, I was in what was supposed to be my last year of college. And scared as I was to tell my parents, I had no second thoughts about keeping my child. But I kept hearing in my head, this boy does not love you. This is not who you're supposed to be with. I let him know that I was pregnant, and wholeheartedly, with no resentment at all, I offered him the opportunity to walk away. After all, a baby wasn't in our plans, and I didn't want him to be stuck in a commitment or situation he wasn't ready for or wanted. And the incessant feeling that this boy does not love you. But I ignored everything that was screaming inside of me and started thinking, if I was with my ex for 6 years and never got pregnant, and I've been with this one for 2 years, and I did, then maybe it's a sign, right? Maybe we're supposed to be together. Maybe it was fate. Can I insert a blank stare here? I I used this rationale every time I saw something or had a feeling that led me to uncover some truth that should have been there to send me running. The discharge papers with his signature on it with another woman's name stating that she had suffered a miscarriage, the bloody boxers that he didn't even bother to hide properly after coming in from a night of cheating, the Maxima that he would say that he was driving that his friend let him use, but then, intuition said otherwise. So, again, signs were there. Intuition was spot on. I actually left after the boxer confirmation. Called my dad at 3 a.m. to come and pick me up. I packed up my child and I went back to live with my mom. They say that you should believe a person when they show you who they are. And as a Pisces, I guess I tend to fantasize about what things should be. But not once did he try to fight for us. And again, everything in me said that this boy does not love you. But again, I chose to ignore it, and I was the one that gave in and went back. So what do you think the universe threw my way because I hadn't learned the lesson? 2 months later, I was pregnant with baby number 2. We, of course, were still miserable together, and around 6 or 7 months into the pregnancy, I decided that I couldn't do it anymore. He never interacted with my family. I went to every one of my family functions alone to have to answer the questions of where is he? Why is it just you and the kids? Why is it that he's never around? Why are you doing everything by yourself? And even with these questions from family members, I still defended him and stuck by my relationship. Anytime he had a family function, anytime his friends had something, I was always there. And I knew I wasn't getting what I needed or wanted in a partner, and I couldn't ignore the voice and the signs that kept telling me that he didn't really love me. But we stayed together, not because we wanted to, but because he didn't think that I could handle living on my own with a toddler and a baby on the way. So if I had agreed to move back in with my mom like he wanted, then escape attempt number 2 would have stuck. But true to who I was, stuck it out. 2 months after the birth of our second child, he lost his job and decided to leave for Florida for a few weeks to clear his head. So all of that concern about leaving me with a toddler and one on the way suddenly went away when it came to a toddler and a newborn. But it was more important to, hang out with the friends. At that point, instead of seeing it for what it was, I decided that it was time to think about escaping New York if I wanted to save my family. So we looked at Delaware, Georgia, and Florida. My gut told me that Delaware was still too close to his connections in New York. Florida would absolutely be the death sentence of our family because of his brother living there, and I knew he was up to no good whenever he went because he was the only one out of all of his friends that never brought me with him when they would all go to Florida to visit. Everyone else would bring their wife or girlfriend at the time, and I was never allowed. You think I would have learned then? So I decided that Georgia was the safe bet, or at least I thought so at the time. So Georgia was the compromise, and we moved there. Things, of course, didn't really get better. We had our periods of good and bad, mostly bad. For years, I stayed quiet about all the messages and letters that I had read. Intuition would always lead me to find information when I wasn't looking for anything. It got to a point where I stopped listening to my intuition altogether and just sunk deeper into depression. I knew he didn't love me and was holding on because of the intention of benefiting from the fact that my father is extremely well off. I knew what I was feeling and sensing, And when I would bring certain things up, he would make me think I was crazy with what I was saying. And several times I questioned my sanity to the point where I really felt that the world would be better off without me, that my children would be better off without me. But of course, just knowing what they would go through should I have made that decision was what caused me or helped me to realize that it was worth it to hold on. So it's funny, when we decided to move to Georgia, he wasn't working, so he went ahead to look for work, and I moved back in with my mom with the kids until everything was set for us to move. We tried saving money together for our first house, but he would always have a reason to dip into the money and take out whatever he put in. I, on the other hand, had worked for my dad at his business since I was 13, making deliveries for him, doing paperwork, etc. Our arrangement was that he would give me a small amount of my pay in cash, and the rest would be saved for when I was ready to buy my first home. So naturally, I was so excited when it came time to look for our house. I had prepared for this moment for years. I had given up a normal teenage life, working after school every day, and gave up my summers for this very day. And I was proud to be 25 and buying my first home, brand new home, just being built. He, on the other hand, he immediately wanted everyone to come out and celebrate, and he couldn't understand why I would be upset that he decided to light the brand new fireplace in this amazing 4-bedroom, 3-bath home with his family and friends that I felt that I had worked so hard for. I didn't even have an opportunity to enjoy what I had worked for all these years. I looked at all of this, and again, I kept hearing, "This boy doesn't love you." But when after 4 years together, 2 kids, and me buying the house, he finally decided to propose, instead of listening to that voice that kept saying, "This boy does not love you," I decided to say yes. Over time, I just became more and more depressed. We weren't a good match, and we didn't want the same things. The bills weren't handled equally. He never had his share of the bills. My parents and I handled most of the financial responsibilities. I was one that wanted to spend more quality time as a family, and he always wanted to throw parties and have people over, go on boys' trips, things of that nature. He could never find the money when utilities were cut off or when daycare was due. But let a boys' trip come up, or someone want to have a party or a get-together at the house, and he would always find the money. And we honestly weren't compatible sexually, emotionally, as a family unit. The fact is, we didn't belong together. But with all of that, the only resolution could, of course, just be to finally plan our wedding after being engaged for 5 years, right? Is this another place where I need to insert a blank stare? So let's fast forward a year later to our wedding day. I wasn't happy or excited. I was scared shitless, and I was sure that I was making the wrong choice. I kept hearing in my head, "This boy does not love you." And I'm sure people saw it in my face and thought it was just nerves. I honestly heard I looked miserable and unhappy that day, and realistically, I was. And you would think that when his best friend and your father both say to you, "It's not too late," right before you walk down the aisle, you would think that you wouldn't think twice and you would back out of the moment. Again, I was told you don't have to do this. You could walk away from it all now. But all I could think about was the amount of money my parents spent and that everyone was already there. So I walked down that aisle knowing it was a mistake, not realizing that when I said I do, I was putting myself on a path to repeat the last 10 years. So we had 10 more years of breaking up and me being the one to change my mind and try to save our family. 10 more years of boys' trips, holding parties, and only doing things with the kids if other people were involved. 10 more years of us making plans only to have him go back on them based on what outside influences like his brother or other people would tell him. 10 more years of things being shown to me and ignoring them. But why? If you asked me then, I probably would have said love. But after being out of it for 6+ years and working on myself, I know that it was a combination of generational trauma, daddy issues, and thinking about what other people thought. I didn't want to have children with more than one person. I didn't want people to say that I failed in my marriage. I didn't even love who I was. So how could I allow myself to stay with a person that didn't love me? Or better said, if I didn't love who I was, I guess that was why I allowed myself to stay with a person that didn't really love me. But I knew that the day was coming when things would run its course. So from us, that course or that time ran out when I announced the pregnancy of our 4th child. I knew I was pregnant with her before I knew I was pregnant with her. It actually came to me in a dream. And in that dream, the signs of separation were there. But I chose to do what I did best, and I ignored it. I ignored the dream. I ignored the feeling. And when I finally took the test weeks later, I knew it was the beginning of the end. And when my ex asked for a separation because I chose to keep the baby, I still chose to ignore the fact that things were over. I knew it had to happen, yet I still held on to hope. Here I was at 39, experiencing a high-risk pregnancy while dealing with the fact that we were getting separated. At 3 months pregnant, I started having complications, and I was put on bed rest. I had a small tear in my placenta, and because of that, my doctor wrote me out of work. I wasn't supposed to be doing anything at all, and I still managed the kids, tried to do whatever it was that I thought it would take to be a good wife, convincing myself that he was just scared of the prospect of having another child. I literally put myself and my unborn child at risk with everything that I did. And I was dealing with heart issues and stomach issues during the pregnancy, and at 6.5 months, I went into preterm labor. That morning, I knew something was wrong, and I laid there afraid to tell the man that was laying next to me because I didn't want to bother him about a child that he didn't want. And as the contractions got closer and more regular, I knew I had to say something. My placenta ruptured on the way to the hospital, and as they rushed me in for the emergency C-section, the only thing that I could think before I went under was, where was my husband? I mean, of course he was there. He drove me to the hospital. He was stuck filling out paperwork, but all I could think was I didn't want to die alone, and I was asking for him. I didn't get to see my daughter that first day. I had a bad reaction to when I woke up from the general anesthesia, and I had tremors from the pain, and so I wasn't able to see her. The next day, before my ex came to see me and wheel me in to see my miracle, here we were again. Intuition was just peaking. So just to go over a little bit of information, like a few months into the pregnancy, yet again here with my intuition, it led me to discover that he had created a dating profile on Match.com. So when I found it back then, I created a fake profile and, to look at his account. And sure enough, because I looked at his account, he had reached out to me. He didn't know he was communicating with me, of course, and I never really communicated back, but I would periodically check from time to time to see how active he was looking on this dating website. But As you guys have learned, I'm a sucker for punishment, or at least I was. Let's be intentional with our words here. So my intuition told me to check the site, and sure enough, the night that his wife and child almost died, my husband was on Match.com. I kept it to myself to focus on the more important thing of meeting my daughter, all 2 pounds, 12 ounces of her that was fighting to survive and battling an E. coli infection in her blood. After being released from the hospital, I wound right back up in there a few days later. As it turns out, not only did I have the same infection as her, but I also developed a blood clot and it was affecting my kidney function. So I spent most of a month in the hospital with virtually no visitors, and that left me with a lot of time to think in between being poked and prodded and scanned over and over again, while of course still making my way across the hall to spend time with our daughter. I realized that for the past 19 years, I was alone in my relationship. I handled all of the major occurrences alone. How do you stay in a relationship where you feel alone? He was always so present for everyone else, but when it came to me and the kids, he just didn't have the capacity. And with everything in me, I felt again, this boy does not love you. A part of me honestly still hold on. Did I say hold on? A part of me honestly still held on. And as a way to make sure that there was no changing my mind, shortly after being released from the hospital, our oldest attempted to take her own life. I realized that I subjected my children to years of toxic behavior and was so caught up in my own unhappiness that I didn't see how much they were hurting. And again, I was left to deal with all of this alone, running back and forth between 2 hospitals daily while still taking care of 2 other children at home and still recovering from my own traumatic birth experience. So when he came to me and said that he changed his mind and he thought that we should stay together because of my health issues and all the help that I would need because we had a preemie, this time, when I heard this boy does not love you, I listened. I saw flashes of every moment that my intuition warned me about in the past. I paid attention to the way I was feeling in that moment. I remembered every unpleasant experience that I trusted my way to make my way through. And this time, I trusted with everything in me in that moment that my answer was right, and I said no. Because I knew he never really loved me. And after 2 near-death experiences trying to have children for this man and finally realizing what this was doing to our children and realizing that I need to love, respect, and honor myself more, I decided no matter how hard it would be apart, it was worth being together. Had I listened to my intuition years ago, I could have avoided a lot. But I came to a point where I realized that those 20 years were a karmic lesson that I needed to learn. I have 4 beautiful, amazing daughters, and I've learned a lot about who I am and what I want by experiencing being lost within myself and also experiencing what it is that I don't want. Are things in my life perfect now? Far from it. I'm still learning, still fighting for things to be equal and fair for my children, still trying to give them better experiences and examples so that they can be better versions of themselves, trying to break patterns that have been repeated in my family for generations. But I'm now in a place where I've learned to listen to my intuition much more. And it's a very important resource in your life. So now, when I feel a twinge or have a feeling or a dream, I pay attention. Because your intuition helps you to also live authentically. But I feel like with all the demands of society, all the demands of life, that the fact that everything keeps us so busy that we ignore those intuitive feelings. So it's important to find a way to help you build or strengthen that intuition and to learn to trust yourself again. I've been working on mine in several ways, from listening to a variety of YouTube videos with the frequencies that enhance or increase your intuition, consulting tarot cards or tarot, oracle cards to help me with confirming the information that I intuit, sitting in silence and meditating. Crystals are even a great source to use too. So, again, the whole purpose of this episode is to really try to get you to understand how important it is to listen to your intuition. We may not have had control over the circumstances before and after our birth, the things that took place when we were children. But as adults, we owe that to ourselves. We have that responsibility to ourselves to be authentic to us, to tap into that intuition and let it guide us so that we're going down the right path in life. So as we close out, I want you to think about your own circumstances. What experiences could you have avoided had you listened to your intuition? What have you encountered where, in hindsight, you know now that it was your intuition telling you what was going on? So I'm going to go ahead and just pull a few cards with messages and guidance to help you through this process. I have a few decks that I want to go through. So, of course, bear with me. I did go ahead and pre-shuffle and get these out once I knew what the topic was about. And what I did was I pulled a card from the messages from the mermaids. And the card that came out was Move Forward. So I'm going to go ahead and read this from the book. Move forward. Make a move now. The time for waiting is over and forward movement is required. Don't let fear stop you. This warrior king of the sea strides boldly forward and asks you to do the same. He says this is the time to make a move, so follow him now. Whatever it is you've been thinking about doing, this card says do it now. You might not feel ready, or you could be waiting for the perfect moment to take action. Well, that perfectly imperfect moment is now. The time for inaction or procrastination is over. You know in your heart that the current circumstances can't stay the same and bold action is required. It might not be a life-changing move, or there again, it could be. You'll know what you need to do, so act with courage as you boldly move forward and trust in life to guide you. The writer, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, says, "Whatever you can do or dream, you can. Begin it." Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. So take heed of these wise words, and apply them to your own life now. An exciting time of activity lies ahead and will lift you out of your current scenario and into a whole new world. You might be feeling very comfortable and not feel like moving anywhere, let alone forward. This card can also be saying move forward by moving your body. It could be as simple as getting some exercise. This is the meaning if the card appears to be with the Be Spontaneous card. You'll know how to interpret this card intuitively and also by considering the other cards in your reading. And there we go again with intuitively and that message to move forward. And I think that was part of my problem, that I was remaining comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation. Okay, so I also decided to pull a card because I believe that crystals are very important in helping you with your journey. So I pulled a card from the Astral Realms Crystal Oracle, and this was card number 17, which actually speaks to abundance. The crystal on the card is smoky amazonite, and it also references Regulus star. And this card has to do with gratitude, visualization, and mindset. So attracting abundance or living abundantly is dependent on your frame of mind. And the first step in allowing it to flow to you is believing and knowing that it is possible. The universe is here to give you all that you desire, so let the law of attraction work in your favor. Begin to visualize yourself with a full bank account, being debt-free, your dream career soaring to new heights, or a fulfilling relationship. When you think of these outcomes as a reality, the universe responds and aligns circumstances that bring imagination into tangible reality. Using your power of perception coupled with persistence and belief puts everything you've asked the universe for within your reach. Draw the power of abundance from the Regulus star in the constellation of Leo, which represents great fame, fortune, and power. Regulus is known for its energies of desire, strength of will, and determination. Using smoky amazonite will help encourage you to be bold and speak your truth and aid you in attracting abundance. It helps relieve stress and correct emotional issues and past traumas while removing energetic blocks, so you're able to have a clear mind when setting your intentions to attract abundance. This stone will also act as an energy filter to ensure your yin and yang are working harmoniously, allowing you to vibrationally align with the universe. And there's also an activation guide should you choose to get this stone. Close your eyes and take deep breaths in and out. Begin to give gratitude for what you have at this current stage of your life. Visualize yourself at a stage in life where you have everything you want and need. Thank yourself and the universe for providing it, and practice this exercise daily. And the quote here is, "I have the power to attract all that I desire." And I think that this is a beautiful card. So definitely, if you're dealing with any type of similar circumstances to what I've gone over, if you're living your life in an unfulfilled relationship, if you're just not happy with how things are for you right now, period, whether it has to do with a relationship or just within yourself, just know that putting that energy out there and focusing on what it is that you want to attract into your life is a way to go ahead and bring about that and make it happen. But you do have to do it with that belief that it will happen. Okay, and then the last one that we have here, I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's chrysocolla, which has to do with the elements of earth, also with unconditional love and cleansing. So this stone is known for cleansing the aura of toxins. Chrysocolla is a great crystal to use when experiencing high stress levels and burnout. The surface of chrysocolla resembles pristine oceanic views, and this aerial vantage point helps you gain perspective on situations hitting too close to home. Take a step back when those situations arise and remember to prioritize your needs first. Deeply connected to the energy of the earth, chrysocolla reminds us to get in touch with our feminine side, the part of us connected to our capacity for unconditional love. So again, I feel like this speaks volumes, and I certainly hope that, if not all, one of these cards resonates with you and has a message that you needed to hear. Very excited. We're wrapping up our first episode of Let's Get to the Heart of It. And with that, let us close out by saying, and I want you to try to remember this daily, and maybe even take this on as one of your own mantras. So close your eyes, place your hands over your heart, and I want you to say, I am love. I am light. I value and honor myself through my thoughts and through all that I say and do. The more I love and value myself, the more love and value I attract from those around me. I promise to honor myself as the goddess that I am, to honor the queen that I am, by always shining my light and walking in my divine path. I bask myself in my divine feminine energy, and am unapologetic about my power, light, and presence. I will never forget that I am an extension of the divine creator, and that all that is in it is in me. Therefore, I am love, I am power, I am creativity, and I am abundance. And so it is.